I'm really excited to welcome the first of 4 wonderful presenters for this session, Amanda Misha. She is from the San Diego Hunger Coalition and will introduce her fellow presenters. Their session is called Innovative Strategies to Increase Food Security and Promote Equity. Take it away.
Thank you, Amy. It's great to be here. I'm going to share my screen as well. So thank you everyone for joining Innovative Strategies to Increase Food Security and Promote Equity. We would like to invite everyone throughout this presentation to share questions in the chat. We'll be pulling from those questions for Q&A at the end. So today's presenters, I'm Amanda Misha from the San Diego Hunger Coalition. I'm the Hunger Free Kids Manager. Presenting with me today are Sarah Elizon. Sarah is the Director of Data Insights with the Center for Good Food Purchasing, which manages the Good Food Purchasing Program, as well as Catherine Slamko. Catherine is the Director of Nutrition Services at Oceanside Unified School District. And we have our breakout moderators, Deirdre Kleski of the County of San Diego, HHSA, and Amanda Schultz-Brochu from the San Diego Hunger Coalition. So thank you to this fabulous collaborative team. Now for our agenda. I'll be covering a high-level overview of food insecurity in California and the role that school meals play in addressing food insecurity, as well as sharing innovative strategies to increase food security and promote equity through Meals Count and CEP, after school, CACFP supper, and bulk meal kits. The Center for Good Food Purchasing is going to give us an introduction to the Good Food Purchasing Program, and Oceanside Unified School District is going to share some strategies for good food in action, so things that they have been doing. First, let's start with food insecurity rates in California and make sure that we are all from a same point of understanding of food insecurity as defined by the USDA. Food insecurity is a household level economic and social condition of limited or uncertain access to adequate food. As of January 2021, almost 23% of all Californians were food insecure. And the food insecurity is unequal across race. We look at our Hispanic and Latino community, 31.5%, our Black community, 27.6%, Asian, 17.6%, and white, 16.8%. So there's a lot of unequal food insecurity. And let's talk about the role that school meals play. So the role of school meals, we firmly believe, and I'm sure you all agree, that school meals are a fundamental component of the hunger relief sector. So as we know and experience here in San Diego, child and youth meals make up almost 23% of our hunger relief sector. So child and youth meals are critically important to hunger relief. Now let's understand how we focus on equity by first understanding equity versus equality. So equality, if you see there on the left, means that each individual or group of people is given the same resources or opportunities. So we see on the left, everybody's given the same little box to stand on, and it doesn't quite work out. Some people still can't reach the fruit. But with equity, we recognize that each person has a different circumstance, and we allocate the exact resources and opportunities that are needed to reach an equal outcome. So we are striving for equity because we want everyone to have access to equal food. So our child nutrition programs actually have some really good equitable policies that increase food security. We want to focus on 2 of them here. The first one is automatic eligibility and enrollment for students for free school meals. And that automatic eligibility and enrollment is for children in households that are participating in SNAP, or they're on indigenous reservations and foster care, and who are migrants or homeless. So it's important. We recognize those children as living in those households or participating in those programs, and the equitable policy is automatic eligibility for free school meals. The next equitable policy is CEP, or Community Eligibility Provision. And CEP provides universal free lunch and breakfast to schools that serve students living in low-income households without requiring individual household applications. So automatic eligibility, streamlined eligibility, free meals, equitable policies. Now let's look at our first innovative strategy. So our first innovative strategy is a tool called Meals Count. So Meals Count makes CEP easier. So we know CEP, the Community Eligibility Provision, helps automatically enroll schools and sometimes entire districts for universal free meals. Meals Count is an algorithmic optimization tool used by school districts to streamline the grouping process and help schools and districts go through the grouping process easier. We know that when districts are considering CEP, this grouping process can be cumbersome, it can be confusing, and it can take a lot of time. So Meals Count is a free online tool to help districts streamline the application and grouping process. Please check it out. It's in its second year. We're really proud of this tool. Use it to streamline the CEP grouping process. The next innovative strategy is we encourage everyone that can utilize the waivers to offer CACFP supper. So pre-COVID, sponsors participating in the at-risk after-school meals component of CACFP had to use school data in order to determine area eligibility for whether or not you could serve supper at a site. Now, with COVID waivers, program operators are able to take advantage of those waivers to bypass those area eligibility requirements to provide supper to all meal sites. So if you are a CACFP provider, please take advantage of this area eligibility waiver and provide supper to all meal sites. And we're going to share why this is important next. So here's some data from grab-and-go sites in San Diego County. And I want to take just a moment to explain this data. So the data is from CDE Nutrition Services. It is comparing October 2019, when children were in school, to October 2020, so right in the middle of COVID. So 2019 to 2020. Now, in October of 2020, overall meal participation is down 24% in San Diego County, which actually isn't that bad considering kids aren't in school. However, if we look at grab-and-go sites that are offering all meals to each student accessing meals, when we look at breakfast and supper, we see a tremendous increase. So breakfast is actually up 37% and supper is up 36%. And this gets to that equity component, because equity is allocating resources and opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome. So we know that the children, and we believe that the children are coming and accessing grab-and-go sites, they are experiencing food insecurity. So by not only offering lunch, by offering breakfast and supper, we're achieving some equity there. So please we encourage everyone to provide as many meals as possible at your grab-and-go site. So take advantage of those supper waivers if you're into the area eligibility. Next up, bulk meal kits. Fantastic, innovative solution. So bulk meal kits we're explaining and describing as more than one serving of items intended to make multiple days worth of a meal to be scratch cooked at home. So on the right there, you're gonna see a bulk meal kit, otherwise referred to as a grocery bag, from Oceanside Unified. And we've found tremendous benefits in providing bulk meal kits here in San Diego County. So just a few of the benefits: providing whole, fresh fruits and vegetables. Districts are able to establish new partnerships with local vendors and farms. The food is less packaged and prepared. We know that at the beginning of COVID, one of the unintended consequences of grab and go was everybody had to scramble to get individually wrapped foods, and a lot of it was prepackaged, pre-prepared, and we saw a downturn in fresh fruits and vegetables. Bulk meal kits is an opportunity to get back there, to get that fresh fruit, whole fruit, vegetables back into families' hands. It's healthier, it's more nutritious. And we also find this is a bit more equitable for different cultures. We have found that bulk meal kits are more appealing across all cultures. Everybody loves fresh fruits and vegetables and whole grains. And bulk meal kits, let's see how bulk meal kits went over at Fallbrook Unified High School District in San Diego County. Judy Reynolds, our nutrition service director there, said that she doubled overall meal participation when she moved to bulk meal kits. This is Judy's direct quote: "Families love it, plain and simple. The food is whole, the food is fresh, the food is usable." We hear that kids love digging through the bags to see what goodies are in there. Below is a picture from Judy's meal, her bulk meal kit this week. This is what she's given out this week. And she promotes it on her website by saying, "We're switching to bulk meal kits to provide more meals, increased variety, and better service to our children and families." So kudos to those innovators out there. So in conclusion for my section, I want to just have a recap on innovative strategies. By taking an equity-based approach to ensuring access for students who have historically faced barriers to food assistance pre-COVID, but it's really absolutely focused in times of COVID, we are required to search out and employ those innovative strategies that address multiple components of every student's experience. So let's get our minds and our hearts together, get some good food out all across California. Thank you for your time. You can send me any comments or feedback, of course, questions in the chat. And I am going to introduce our next presenter, Sarah Elizon, the Director of Data Insights with the Center for Good Food Purchasing, which manages the Good Food Purchasing Program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Hi, everyone. I am Sarah Elizon. I am the Director of Data Insights with the Center for Good Food Purchasing. And I am going to give some background on the center's work with an overview of the Good Food Purchasing Program today. So as you all know, and as Amanda just mentioned, every day students in California, many of whom are food insecure, are relying on the school meals program. And a healthy school meal is really more than vegetables on a plate. The food that we eat is inextricably linked to the system that produces it. And so to change the food on these students' plates, we need to change the system. And there are really a few leverage points that are more powerful than the billions of dollars that school districts spend on food every year. Within the institutional food service setting, $120 billion is spent annually. And while many districts recognize that their food purchases can have a major impact on improving the food system and they want to buy good food, it's not always clear what that term good food means, where their food is coming from, or how it was produced. The Center for Good Food Purchasing is working with school districts and other institutions to understand how their purchases align with good food values and to build the supply of good food by creating large-scale demand for food that's produced in a way that reflects our values. We use the power of procurement to create a transparent and equitable food system that prioritizes the health and well-being of people, animals, and the environment. We do this through the nationally networked adoption and implementation of the Good Food Purchasing Program by major institutions. So to give you some quick background on the center, the Good Food Purchasing Policy was adopted by the City of LA and LA Unified School District in 2012. And the Good Food Purchasing Program was developed to support institutions like LAUSD in implementing this policy. And as interest in the program emerged from across the country as people noticed the work that LA was doing, the Center for Good Food Purchasing was created to manage and house the growing Good Food Purchasing Program nationally. The Good Food Purchasing Program offers a metric-based framework. We offer tools and support to ensure that our public food dollars are invested in a food system that supports our 5 core values of environmental sustainability, valued workforce, animal welfare, local economies, and nutrition, and rooted in the principles of equity, transparency, and accountability. And our interconnected goals are to inspire more and more institutions to adopt the program, increase their purchases of good food, drive market change through that aggregate institutional demand for good food, and really to build a movement that's strong enough to transform the food system. So our job at the center is to support institutions in meeting their commitments to the 5 values. So here's one example of what that could look like. A school food service director approaches us, and we do an evaluation to show where their food dollars are going and how their current food suppliers align with our standards through a baseline assessment. Then we assist the district and their local coalition with goal setting and getting these metrics incorporated into formal district policy like RFPs and contracts. We measure their progress towards meeting their goals, and then we get to celebrate their successes. And our team has spent years thinking about and engaging leading experts from across the country to help develop the framework for the Good Food Purchasing Program. Our good food purchasing standards are a roadmap for working towards our ideal food system. The standards set a basic minimum in each value category, but they inspire institutions to score better and better across these criteria and over time. So for districts that are focusing on improving farm to school purchases, we know that local food is defined in many ways, but we provide a standard definition that can be used to track performance over time and across institutions. Our local economy's definition recognizes food coming from within a 250-mile radius of the institution and from a farm or producer that is family-owned or cooperatively owned. So the program has steadily grown over the last 6 years. We're now working in 20 cities and 10 states, plus Washington, D.C. And in total, we're working with 53 institutions, which represent school districts, hospitals and universities, municipal agencies for parks, aging, homeless services, emergency feeding, juvenile detention and jails, among others. And in total, the Good Food Purchasing Framework impacts over $1 billion in annual food purchases. So you can see here a list of our currently enrolled institutions. And within California, we're working with 14 school districts who have an average FRL rate of 71%, meaning the average rate of families who have students that are eligible for free or reduced price lunch based on their income is 71%. And of course, as you know, the work that these school districts do in feeding students high quality food that reflects good food values is really critical for reaching this population. Within San Diego specifically, both Escondido Union School District and Oceanside Unified School District have enrolled in the program and have both completed a baseline assessment of their purchases against the good food values. So within San Diego, the San Diego Food System Alliance helped to drive adoption of the Good Food Purchasing Program by taking the initiative to identify and build interest with institutions. And we've been working closely with them over the past few years to build out the program in San Diego. And the Alliance can help work on the ground in San Diego to create supplier connections for institutions that are participating in the program. Both Escondido Union and Oceanside Unified School Districts have undergone an assessment to evaluate their baseline alignment with the good food values and have set goals on shifts that they will make towards good food. And what's really exciting is Escondido Union School Board recently voted unanimously to approve the good food purchasing policy so that it is permanently on the books as a commitment that the district is making. Within Oceanside Unified, after receiving results from the baseline assessment, Catherine, who will be speaking next, wrote letters to suppliers who had labor law violations or a high number of COVID cases, inquiring about labor and safety practices. And she received responses from them on next steps that her suppliers are taking to mitigate safety risks to workers. So the analysis that we conduct with the institutions will help support policies and partnerships to lift up their values-based purchasing. We also provide tools to support and track progress over time with initiatives that the school districts are implementing. Some of the tools and resources that are available to enrolled institutions are shown here. We conduct analysis and provide assessments. We help with training and technical assistance to implement good food standards. We provide access to online tools and resources. And then we also convene peer groups so that we can help enrolled institutions learn from individuals who are doing similar work. So coming full circle back to the LA Unified School District, who was the first school district to adopt the program in 2012, their participation was a really big deal because of their scale and because in a relatively short period of time, we've witnessed how an institution's commitment to values-based procurement can influence the entire supply chain. So a major success has been through the innovation that we helped to catalyze within the largest school food distribution company in the Western US, a key LAUSD distributor. Our work actually inspired a curiosity in the CEO, and he started to look at his business through a totally new lens. In one case, he was inspired to work with his manufacturer to develop a healthier, more sustainable whole wheat bun. They eliminated high fructose corn syrup and they reduced sodium. And they sourced the wheat from a cooperative of sustainable local farmers. And what's really exciting is the students love the bun and prices stayed the same. So the bun not only makes its way onto over 600,000 LAUSD students' plates, but also to hundreds of other California school districts. So within the school districts that are enrolled in California overall, at the center, we're able to identify aggregate metrics and we'll be able to track trends over time. So you're able to see here the average percentage of food purchased that aligns with the 5 good food values for 14 school districts that are enrolled in the program within California. And we're really working to support those institutions and making progress over time for California students and residents. So we know the most innovative, groundbreaking policies always are starting at the local level. Cities and school districts have been leading the way. Our work not only leverages the collective buying power of cities and school districts, but also the collective voice of multi-sector coalitions and local leaders to create large-scale systems change. We're excited to be collaborating with you all on this journey. So I appreciate you having me today, and if you'd like to learn more about the program, you can visit our website as it's listed here. So thank you all, and I will now pass this on to Catherine Slamko from Oceanside Unified School District.
Okay. All right, so thank you for having me. My name is Catherine. I haven't met you already, and I'm going to share with you some innovative strategies that we've been doing over here at Oceanside. So hard to believe that we've been in this for almost a year now. But here's last March of what we used to see, unmasked little faces, salad bars, and we worked really hard to get here, right? We use a lot of innovative strategies to get fresh produce on our salad bars, to get kids to choose a salad over a spicy chicken sandwich. When we closed down last year, it was time for new innovations, new strategies. How are we going to meet our families where they're at today the best way we can? Very quickly, when schools were closed, we transitioned into curbside food service. This might look pretty familiar to most of you. So we served from the curb. We did have walk-ups available for those without transportation available. And we saw need that exceeded our ability to meet them. So very, very quickly, we learned that we needed to lean on partners to help us support our community during this high time of need. I think our highest participation day, we did over 75,000 meals in 1 week alone. So we were overwhelmed, to say the least. So we partnered with Gold Star and Sunrise Produce, and we were able to provide more food to the families through the Farmers to Families Food Boxes program. And Sunrise provided these beautiful produce boxes. As Amanda was already sharing before, getting fresh produce to our families during this time was very difficult. It was very expensive and the demand was very, very high. And we don't have time to cut up cucumbers anymore. So this really allowed us to be able to give families the quality food that they were used to getting in our cafeterias. Then we ran into another problem. We had all this food in our freezer that we brought in for our scratch cooked items that we were no longer able to use. And it was quickly approaching their best by dates, taking up room in our freezers. So we turned to some local partners, the Oceanside Kitchen Collaborative, and we were able to donate food. They're a nonprofit organization, and they also serve families in Oceanside. So this way we were able to reduce waste and recover food more efficiently. So it was literally going from our freezer instead of in the trash to Oceanside Kitchen Collaborative, where they were able to make these beautiful meals that we had no capacity to be making during this time. So that way families were able to get it, and they also serve adults. And as you know, we serve kids. So this way adults in need were able to receive food during this time. We also partnered with Colors Gourmet Pizza. During a normal school year, we bring in their pizza crust and we make our own pizzas from scratch that the kids love. But again, we had no ability to do this. And this is a company that is used to receiving income from us. And they're able to then employ their employees. But with schools closing down, they were no longer able to do that. So we partnered together and said, look, this is what we need. We want to keep you guys employed. We want to keep your employees coming to work. So where can we meet in the middle? And so we were able to come up with an individually wrapped calzone, which you could see here, that they made there. And so this is a really cool picture that he sent me of his employees coming back to work, reopening their kitchen, and they were super excited. And we asked if they could have a food safety label printed in English and Spanish, because you know, my biggest encouragement is just ask, and the worst that they could say is no. But they said yes, and look how beautiful that looks. And our families were super excited to get a fresh calzone that they could reheat at home, and everybody was super happy. We were also able to utilize our commodity cheese to decrease the price, so that was helpful as well. Another thing we did is we partnered with our local Oceanside library, because they also missed their kiddos just like we did. And so they came to our food distribution sites, and they passed out free books, free coloring books, and they were just really excited. I don't know if you guys have been out at curbsides, but it's really fun to see the kids in their cars as they drive by. This is like their one outing of the day to come to school to get food, especially during the height of the pandemic. And so they would get so excited that they got a bag of books, coloring books, coloring pencils, and everybody was happy. The librarian was so excited to be able to see kids again. And then during the summertime, we, before the legislation was passed that we knew that Seamless Summer was going to be extended for the whole school year, I reached out to our local assembly member, and I met her actually last year. I had the opportunity to go to the Legislative Action Conference in Sacramento. And I met our Oceanside assembly member. And so I reached out to her and I said, hey, do you want to come to one of our curbsides and see what a mess it would be if we had to capture eligibility at the curb? And she said, sure, love to. And so she came, and she saw the production that it is to have curbside meal service, especially for the size of our district. And it was just really great to have just that candid conversation of the barriers, and that it would be ultimately a barrier to creating access to food, right? And that's what we're all here. That's what this conversation is about, is creating equitable access for all kids. And so creating lines, capturing eligibility, you're free, you're reduced, you're paid at the curb would be nearly impossible. So that was really fun. I think she enjoyed herself, but I'm a little biased. So then once school instruction started in the fall, we saw a huge decrease in our numbers. Kids were back in school virtually, they were at home, maybe parents went back to work and food became harder to access. So we quickly realized, well, we've got to bring the food to the kids then. So we expanded to 3 of our community parks, and we started doing home deliveries. So we at Oceanside had the pleasure of having a transportation department. So if you're thinking, how the heck did you guys do all of that with nutrition services employees? Well, we didn't. We had a wonderful collaboration with our transportation department. So we had bus drivers using our food truck, that's what you see on the left-hand side, and doing home deliveries. So it was an amazing partnership. We were super lucky to be able to have that as a resource, and the parents as well. And once we started doing this, we saw an increase in participation, pretty much running out of food every day at our community parks. And the numbers of need for food deliveries increased almost weekly. So again, as we saw ourselves expanding, we saw the need also expanding, which in my mind, as you know, I'm my father's daughter, and if you run out of food, it means that you don't have enough. So we tried to figure out how can we continue to expand. So again, we reached out to our transportation department and said, hey, so we're at community sites, we're delivering. You guys are bus drivers. Do you miss your bus routes? And if the answer is yes, can we put food at those bus routes? So we went ahead and did it. We started doing food service on their bus routes at their bus stops. And again, the need and the participation was enormous, a lot more than we expected. So we started having hundreds and hundreds of meals on yellow school buses going to bus stops. And it was really incredible to see the participation increase, as well as hear from the bus drivers how rewarding it was for them, and how much they loved to see the kids, and be able to give them food was really, really rewarding and really sweet to hear their stories. And then the latest thing that we started in January, as Amanda already alluded to, was we started doing grocery bags. And this is because, again, we've been here for almost a year, and our families, myself, are tired of giving out packaged food. So once we got the green light that bulk meals were okay for claiming purposes, it was like, all right, how can we get creative with this? And this allowed us to offer whole foods, offer meals that they can make at home. And our numbers didn't double, but they did go up by about 1,000, which was amazing. And so how is that practically? How is it financially? Well, I've got to be honest with you that it's not cheap. But the reward is worth it, and to see the faces of the families when they're picking up these bags is amazing. And even the principals are getting calls and emails from their parents saying what a lifesaver these grocery bags have been. And then, as I'm sure those food directors out there know, we got an email a couple of weeks ago that there are more DoD funds. So again, ask, and the worst they could say is no, but they're not saying no right now. They're saying yes and asking you how much you want. So this is a great opportunity for you to capsize on DoD funds to be able to fund things like these grocery bags that you see. We did fresh strawberries last week from the DoD, and they're beautiful. Every family got a whole clamshell of fresh strawberries, and they were super excited. And we could afford it because we were using DoD funds. So it's really amazing to see. And then holiday distributions, we were able to partner with the city of Oceanside. And again, I'm not afraid to ask for things, as you probably have seen. And so I asked if they could donate to us a tote bag to be able to hand out to families. And sorry, I advanced too far. And they were able to give us tote bags, and that was really amazing. I think we did about 75,000 meals in just under an hour and a half. It was pretty insane. And now we have this beast of hybrid learning. Most of you, I'm sure, are going back to school soon if you haven't already. And the kids haven't come back just yet. They came back in November for a month, and they're coming back again on Monday. So we are prepared as we could ever be, but it's been a lot of working with principals and other site administrators to make sure that meals are equitable for all cohorts, all A groups, all B groups. They all have the same access to the same meals. And it's really important that one group isn't left out. And so we are a little stressed, going to be very transparent, as we are anticipating all of these moving parts and never ever having universal feeding at all of our campuses previously. The amount of meals that we could potentially be producing or needing to produce on a daily basis is quite overwhelming, but one step at a time, right? And then I just wanted to end by just encouraging you all. You guys are all innovators in your roles in some way or another, and just want to really encourage you to focus on maintaining morale with your staff, with yourself, with employees, and focus on the positive efforts that you have made. We've made positive efforts, and not all of them have been successful. We have definitely failed at some things that we've tried, but these are the things that we've tried and that have worked. And we have just tried to maintain a new normal and try to find it somehow. And then the guidelines are going to change a week from now, and we'll find a new normal then. But this is just kind of a fun picture to leave you with. The picture on the left was Dr. Seuss Day last year, and the picture on the right is Dr. Seuss Day this year. Doing some green eggs and ham, and just how can we still maintain what we love to do and the reason why we're all here with the circumstances that we're in right now. But thank you so much for having me, and any questions that you have, please put them in the chat, and I'm going to hand it over to Deirdre, who is going to moderate our Q&A session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much to Catherine and Amanda and Sarah for the great presentations. You know, mainly in the chat, there were a lot of kudos, a lot of thank yous, some discussion among participants about, you know, perishable versus non-perishable food, because some families don't have refrigeration or cooking appliances. And there were actually some discussion about how Marcy Masumoto, for example, mentioned that, you know, that they funded a school that wanted to get small appliances to families in need. So that generated some good discussion. In order to have enough time in our breakout session, I think I will just turn it over to the two questions that we're going to have in the breakout session, so people have time to reflect, go into the rooms, have some great discussion, put their thoughts in chat or share it verbally. And then when we come back, we'll see if there's a couple of highlights that can be shared before we have to wrap it up.
Excellent. All right, so we'd love to hear from your breakout sessions. Any of our moderators, would you like to share out or highlight any of the sharings that happened?
Sure, I can share. So our group had some really great conversations about transitioning to bulk meals. And so there was a lot of discussion just about economic feasibility of making that shift. And we were lucky enough to have 2 people in the room that have done that work. And we're just sharing about the price breakdown and that it is possible with the current reimbursement to make the shift to bulk meals. And then we also talked about some innovative strategies, including doing plant giveaways along with school meals, and then doing organic food boxes and economic feasibility of that. So some really great innovations occurring.
Thank you, Amanda.
I can chime in next. I was so inspired by the innovative strategies I heard in my breakout room. Just one learning to highlight, don't be afraid to ask, that was repeated. But a theme of really pivoting during COVID and being able to increase the reach of programs that used to just be going to the kids, but now are reaching the broader community and families through really innovative strategies. And just a hope that, since that has been a challenge to reach families in the past, that there will be some recognition of the need for it, and legislatively that that this can work, and moving forward really work on engaging more communities and families within this work.
I'll hop in. So we had a really great discussion in our group as well, and just a lot of sharing about what people have been doing, and how the grocery bags and the bulk meal kits have been very impactful for their specific communities as well. But one thing I wanted to highlight, which was such a good thing to bring up, we had somebody in our group who works for farmers, and she shared about waste on farms and how imperative it is to create partnerships with our farmers, because she's hearing how it's hard for us to get access to produce when she's like, but we're here wasting produce. So we just to continue that conversation and create that collaboration with our local farmers is super important. That was a great point.
Deirdre, did you want to share?
Yeah, I just had one point having to do with something that inspired someone to action. It was actually Kelly Moffa, the registered dietitian with Long Beach Unified, and she was inspired seeing Catherine's beautiful salad bar in Oceanside to figure out some way, when the kids come back, if there's some way to have salad bars again. And we talked about like shaker salads and things like that. And someone provided a resource for some certified vendors that sell biodegradable, compostable and with no PFAs, I hope I said that, products that food service could use. So that was a good discussion.
Excellent. And I think I just have 1 minute, so I want to make sure I share out from our breakout. Sherry from Long Beach Unified was sharing that they're doing bulk on the weekend, so spaghetti and meatballs and fresh fruits and vegetables with DoD funds. San Francisco Unified, Renata was sharing they do meal deliveries, and the challenges of being in a city versus they don't really have the drive up option. So meal delivery is so important, and expanding it. They use a partner called Food Connect out of Philly, which is actually kind of like an Amazon style truck that can deliver food. And then Michael from Morgan Hill was sharing that doing a 7-day meal kit that's a combination of bulk and individually wrapped. And on Tuesdays, his staff actually goes out to apartments, mobile home parks, low-income areas that are more dense, and are getting meals out. So really good sharing. Innovation is alive and well in California. So thank you, everyone, for joining this session. I am going to gratefully turn it back over to Amy. Thank you for having us. This has been a pleasure.